Good to see you, man. How's it going?
Good to see you, Kobe. Been waiting a long time for this. I'm good. How are you?
Absolutely, I'm doing really, really well. You want to just dive right in? I know we've got a lot to talk about.
Let's do it.
Okay. So let's just start from the most intense part of your story. Let's start from the climax. Just tell me a little bit about what happened to you and a little bit about your story and what's gotten you to the point you are at today.
Loaded question. Late last year, I was 22 at the time. I decided to get tested for LP little a. I knew it was probably had to do with what killed my dad at the time.
Hold on. Before we go any further, I just want to explain to you what he's talking about. I'm no doctor or scientist, but I'm going to do my best to explain to you, and if you do want to learn more, I've put some links in the description below that you can check out. LP(a), or lipoprotein A, is a form of LDL, or low-density lipoprotein. Low-density lipoprotein can cause blockages in your circulatory system and increase your risk of heart attack and stroke. Most of you have probably heard of a waxy substance called cholesterol, and that having high levels of it is bad for you. But it's not that black and white. Cholesterol is needed for some very important functions in the human body, like producing vitamin D and hormones. When people are saying that cholesterol is bad, they're mostly talking about LDL. So when Andrew is talking about his levels of LP(a), he's talking about how much of that specific type of LDL that he has in his body. Now it's worth noting that not all of what we call cholesterol is bad. There's also HDL, which is high-density lipoprotein. And instead of causing a blockage in your arteries, it actually brings cholesterol to your liver where it's processed and disposed of. To recap, there are two different types of what we call cholesterol. There's HDL, high-density lipoprotein, which is the good cholesterol, which brings cholesterol to your liver to be disposed of, and the bad cholesterol, LDL, low-density lipoprotein, which causes a buildup of cholesterol in your arteries, decreasing blood flow from your heart to the rest of your body. There's a specific type of LDL, LP(a), and some people just have the genetic disadvantage of having very high levels, and unfortunately that can cause problems at a young age. Unfortunately, levels of LP(a) cannot be reduced with lifestyle changes. But healthier lifestyles can reduce your LDL levels in general, which then mitigates the risk from LP(a). Now, hopefully what Andrew is saying will make sense to you all. I hope you enjoy the rest of the conversation. He really opens up about his life story, his health issues, his family, so many personal details, and he's truly a very impressive person, so I really think this is worth the watch. Thanks for staying tuned.
And so I figured why not get tested? My mom didn't tell me to do it or anything. I just went down to the lab, said I want to get tested, and the nurses didn't know what it was. It's pretty an unheard of thing. I got tested a couple of days later, got the results back, and changed my life pretty much overnight. The results said the average range is at or below 29. I'm not too familiar with all the numbers and everything like that, but I was at a 53. So, somewhat close to double the max of the average range that you want to be at. And there was no description of what that meant beyond that you're at risk. So I freaked out. I called my loved ones and said, how much they meant to me and my good friends too. And, I was pretty scared at the time. Just wanted some answers. So I tried calling triage nurse and she said, we're going to take some preventative measures here. She had no idea what it was, but she just didn't know what to say. So that was pretty, even added more to it, and then scheduled a little cardiologist visit. But I had to wait over the weekend for that. So that whole weekend I was just, fearing for my life, which I felt like was reasonable at the time.
That's terrifying. And you feel like being at that point where you were fearing for your life, that inspired the change that you decided to make?
I didn't start then in terms of just changing my life, but I knew change was coming. But at the time, I just wanted the answers, and I think I was too stunned to do really anything beyond wait for an answer. So I got the meeting about Monday, Tuesday morning with the cardiologist for 2 hours, talking to her, and then sent her a copy of my dad's autopsy. And she wrote back saying, your dad died of coronary artery disease. And so that's pretty frightening to hear. I knew that obviously he had died of a heart attack. We'll get into that in a bit. But hearing from a cardiologist that he died of coronary artery disease, that's pretty scary stuff. And so I met with a dietitian too. And then the rest is history.
What were some of those changes that you did end up making in your life?
couple things. She gave me a list of things to start incorporating into my diet and also start working out a lot more. I actually didn't work out at the time, I don't think, at all. I started working out 2 to 3 times a day. I incorporated all those things into my diet, be it chia seeds, Oikos Triple Zero yogurt. It's good stuff for you. I cut out red meat completely overnight. I stopped eating butter in my diet. I just use good oils for you. So I really flipped my diet overnight. I just eat chicken, salmon, vegetables, multigrain bread, chia seeds, Greek yogurt, and peanut butter. That's pretty much 90% of my diet. It's changed a whole lot of things too.
That's awesome. So in terms of more specifically your diet, were you aware of what you were eating before? Is that ever something that crossed your mind as something that would be important for you, that would make a difference in your life? Or how would you describe your eating habits beforehand?
Not good, but I wasn't really aware of it or paying attention to it. It's not like I was eating terribly, but I'd get like Domino's once a week, stuff like that, where looking back, I could never go back to doing that. I just paid no attention to it, probably drank a little bit too much sometimes, obviously in college, definitely. But things like that where you don't think of it at the time, but once you make that switch, there's no going back.
And then for, I guess, still on diet, what did you use to educate yourself to then make the right decisions?
Oh, I spoke with the dietitian for probably about an hour. And during that time, my mom's texting me saying, hey, what's the news? She's freaking out because my phone's going off, and understandably so. But I didn't slowly incorporate things. I just flipped a switch and said, this is going to change. I went to the grocery store, got a lot of fruits, vegetables, chicken, salmon, all those things I mentioned. Also forgot to mention broccoli, green beans, and Brussels sprouts are in that list, the 90% list. Mm-hmm. The guy in front of me in the store said, this guy's going to live forever. And at the time, obviously didn't think that was true. And so I don't think I said anything. I was just so stunned of what was going through my life at the time. And went home and threw out anything that was not healthy, dumped out any liquids that weren't healthy, and it said this is going to be a change. And it was hard, but I knew it had to be done. I think that made it a lot easier for me.
That's super powerful. I mean, you're instantly seeing that there's a difference. Even before you've started consuming the food, you see some guy come up to you and say, this guy's going to live forever. That's like an instant reward for your change in behavior. And then I guess I kind of want to talk about a similar thing, but on the exercise portion of your life. You said you didn't exercise beforehand much at all. So how did that come about in your life? This doctor told you, okay, exercise. So how did you start? What did you do?
So she told me to exercise between 3 and 5 days a week, for a total of 150 minutes, which is not a lot. But I didn't want to do the bare minimum. So I did 7 days a week, 2 to 3 times a day, and nothing excruciatingly hard. Obviously going from not working out at all to every day was a big change for me. So what I did is I was shown in college, a great friend of mine at the time, showed me the Nike training app for working out with no equipment. And they'll like literally walk you through it, show you what to do. So that was really easy for a beginner like me. I still use that today. I'm not some gym rat in the slightest. I'm more of a health nut, I would say. But I just kept working out. And between that and law school, it took up much of my time. And I think, actually, I dropped 20 pounds in 3 months. And currently I'm below the weight I went to college with. I'm in the best shape of my life, which is really great to see.
That's awesome.
But yeah, it was drastic change, not in terms of only what I'm eating, but how much I'm eating. Mm-hmm. So really just got conscious of everything health related in my life and said, there's going to be a change here.
How fast from when you started making these lifestyle changes did you feel the difference? More than just see the difference in terms of a scale or know that you have the ability to do more push-ups, but at what point did you start feeling better?
Definitely not immediately, probably not for a while. I think I was doing it drastically out of fear and guilt. I think to answer a follow-up question to that, I think what motivated me to do it was two things. Number one is that if my dad would have known what was inside of his body at the time, that's inside of mine too, I think he would have worked out every day. And so if I go a day without working out, I'm saying to myself, how could I ever do that when I have the privilege to know what's going on inside of me when he never did? So I look myself in the mirror and think, there's no shot I'm not going to work out right now. I have no reason not to. Secondly, is that you're only getting older. You're in the best time of your life right now. I don't care how old you are to get in the best shape of your life. And so I figured it's going to be a lot easier to do that when I'm 23 as opposed to 33 or 43. The cardiologist again said to me, there is no cure for this. We're working on it. We're hoping to have a pill of some sort by the time you're 28. So I'm thinking, what a silly wait would be to go out by 28. So why not give myself that shot? So how quickly did I feel a change? I think mentally, about a month or two. But I felt like I was just sprinting in a marathon type of deal, just trying to get healthy as quick as I can. But once the physical changes came, I think that made it a lot easier mentally too.
Yeah, I would imagine that having to wait like a month or 2 months to feel a change, knowing that all of this is going on in your life and inside of your body, that must have been probably even added to your stress.
I did, yeah. Constantly fearing not doing enough, and guilt of what you put in your body, thinking the repercussions of that. So it really did change my perspective on quite literally everything. But I think I've found a more healthy balance as opposed to just working out 2-3 times a day. I think I've toned it down a little, but remained healthy.
What do you do now then?
I do at least once a day. I think I'm a little bit busier this year than last year. Second year of law school is a jump. But I still eat very healthy. I maybe have one cheat day a month in terms of eating out with a friend or what have you. But I drink nothing but water and iced coffee at home. I still don't eat with butter. I just don't eat red meat. When that was actually a pretty hard change to go through at the time too. But again, once you go through those changes, I think you look back and say, I can never do that again. So,
yeah. So you have all of this going on in your life in terms of health issues and things you're trying to manage related to health. You're working out now, but you're also in law school. So how are you able to manage your time effectively so that you're able to take care of your body and prioritize your own health while still accomplishing what you need to accomplish academically?
Yeah, that's a good question. Don't have the best timeline for things in that regard. I work for school most hours of the day. I think anybody in my position can tell you that. I'm involved in a couple of extracurriculars, and also I tutor undergrads at UW for the LSAT, and then provide half off for financially underprivileged students like myself. So I really take a lot of pride in doing that, and I love doing that. So between tutoring for the LSAT, law school, and working out most hours of my day, I tend to work out at around midnight. Even between 11 p.m. and midnight is when I'll start working out. Main reason being that I used to do the morning. I stopped doing that because when I work out in the morning, I would just be thinking about all the things I have to do for the day, and it would just stress me out. So I'd work out late at nights when it's completely quiet around me, and all I have to think about is just working out, recapping my day. That was more therapeutic than stressful as opposed to working out in the morning, I think.
Cool. I guess on the topic of mentality and stress, are there any techniques you have to reduce your stress living in in days when you have so much to do for so many different things?
I probably should be a bit better at that. That's something I've always struggled with, is trying to not just be physically healthy, but mentally healthy as well, and stay positive and proud of yourself. I definitely am on the outside, but on the inside, I struggle with that sometimes. But I think that staying on pace health-wise really has a big deal to do with that. staying social, just doing all I can to keep my head in the game.
Yeah, I think it's all connected, you know, like physical health or mental health. It's really all one and the same for me, but obviously there are techniques you can use to more hone in on one thing rather than another. But yeah, I definitely, if you do dive into that and you do start exploring more things related to mentality and stress reduction, we can have another talk at some point, and I'd love to hear about how that's kind of changed who you are even more.
Absolutely.
All right, so with all these changes happening in the present and the challenge that you've had to go through to get to where you are today, unfortunately hasn't been the only challenges you've experienced through your life. You've gone through a lot. You're a tough guy. And I think that's something that people need to understand on a day-to-day basis is like you walk down the street and you meet someone and you don't know necessarily their story and who they are, and you should just respect the people that you're around because you never know what someone's gone through, what someone's going through. So could you just kind of talk about some of those challenges you've been through?
Before I get into that, I want to preface this with saying I've never gone public with this kind of a thing in terms of my life story because I've always feared the fact of people think I'm doing it for the wrong reason. So I waited for the right reason. And this is the right reason, being that having gone through this journey for about a year now of my health, I think it's important for others to kind of take a look in the mirror and ask themselves what's best for them. So that's really was my main goal in doing it. And I think just being healthy and is super important for me. So I wanted to kind of spread that word. Going all the way back in my life, I grew up in a pretty rural town in Minnesota, Maple Plain. Normal life when I was a little baby, raised my mom and dad. Mom was a stay-at-home mom. Dad ran a small landscaping business locally and would bring over people from South America to come help out and bring them legally over and change their lives. That was fantastic. He was a great man, I've been told. He died when I was 3. So my mom and I were having breakfast. He hadn't come down for a while, still didn't come down. She went to go check on him. Obviously, he was no longer living. And she was stunned. She was young. I couldn't say how old she was. But being just a new baby and in a marriage, you know, when you're in her 30s, I would guess. Pretty shocking overnight. Did not see that coming in the slightest. He was a healthy guy. Obviously, I don't remember anything about him. He wasn't a gym rat or anything like that, but he was a healthy man. And so overnight to just go lights out is absolutely terrifying. And she didn't see it coming. My mom, whom I love dearly, did not go to college. I think it was pretty common at the time. Didn't really have much experience in the workforce. So all the change in her life was drastic and complete 180 of having to be a stay-at-home mom with a little 3-year-old boy versus all of a sudden have to provide for that boy. There's a question of the landscaping business, what's going to happen with that. And most importantly, how she's going to cope and manage with losing the love of her life early on in the marriage with just a young boy. I had to go on that tangent there. That just amazes me still to this day. But she ended up taking over that small business locally without really knowledge of how to run it, obviously. It slowly deteriorated over time, but she kept it alive when I was in high school for the most part, through high school, and kept supporting us. I went to elementary school at a local Catholic school. I was never super big into religion, but that was not a good experience for me in the slightest. I was bullied quite a bit, never physically, thank God. But I was bullied verbally, mainly for 2 things. Number one was my height. I was short, 5'7" now, so I like to think of myself as average. But and I was bullied for not having a dad too. And I'd say that hit pretty hard, but it didn't, because I didn't know any better. I didn't know what bullying meant. I didn't know what real friends, how they treat you like. So being, second through fourth grader, I just thought nothing of it for some respect. And when I got to middle school at a different school, I looked back and said, wow, that was really negative environment. It was not treated well at all. And it took a hit on me. Middle school was pretty average to me. I didn't, nothing great, nothing horrible. It's normal middle school life. Once I hit freshman year of high school, though, things really changed drastically. Obviously the hormones are flying, and I had time when I got home from school to kind of think about what was going on in my life. I was home alone much of the time because my mom is a single mother working.
Is she still doing the landscaping business at this point, or had she moved on to something else?
At this point, yes, she still was. So I could go home and have time to think quite a bit. And I'd look inside my life and quickly got down a negative path. I think some things said to me in the past stuck with me. And also I compartmentalized that, I don't have a dad or another parent. And that really sort of think about what that meant to me. And so when I was freshman year, summer, I babysat, whatever, the usual high school kid stuff, a couple bucks an hour. That's great. Good experience. And sophomore year was a really defining year in my life in high school. I fell into a depression, a lot of negative thoughts, and we got a renter. Financially, we just needed a renter. And a renter is somebody who rents, so to speak, a room in your home. We lived in a smaller townhome.
So you had someone living inside of your house?
Yes, a stranger. I'm not going to say her name you're just not going to do that. But we'll call her Pam. Her name isn't Pam, but we'll call her Pam. When Pam met us and came over, she seemed pretty normal, sweet. I'd say she was in her late to mid 50s, around there. Thought not much of it. We met her and it was totally new for us. We needed the money at the time. So you said, let's give this a shot. So we said, let's do this for 6 months, see how it goes, and so on and so forth. And she came back about a couple of weeks later to move in. And following her car were loads of big U-Haul trucks.
Oh my God.
So immediately that was a bad sign, given that a renter is supposed to rent a room, not rent the entire home. And so with her came loads of boxes. I mean, I can't describe to you how many boxes there were. It was to the point where we live in a townhome. It's not like it's got all the space for everybody. There were boxes everywhere on every floor. Every closet was full of just stuff. There was a sword in our living room. We didn't own a sword. It was her sword. There was just a lot of antiques, vases. I mean, the list didn't stop. And we were stunned. At the same time, we needed the money. So it was taking advantage of us a bit, probably, yeah. And she would... Things she did really irked me at the time. I felt like we were being taken advantage of. And for example, this is really small and stupid, but just for example, I was, again, a sophomore in high school at the time. So I think that's 15 years old, around there. She would be in the living room and just using all our stuff. And that, I don't mean, I'm not trying to sound mean, but things she did, just kind of like you own the place. And knowing that we're not going to say no because we needed the money. Yeah. And that really frustrated me. So that summer, while she's still there, I started working for my dad's former landscaping business. It's a local thing. It was just my grandpa and I. That was it. Wow. Doing it. There are no other employees there at the time. And again, it slowly deteriorated because she just, frankly, how could she have any knowledge of how to run it without him? And I think she had other priorities at the time, as of raising me and also just taking care of herself. So it was just him and I. We worked every day, most days of the week, sunrise to sunset, just mowing lawns. That was my first real job, I would say.
Not your
And
average high school summer.
no, it wasn't my average high school summer. No. I would give every paycheck to my mom saying, you know, we need this. I don't need this. We need this. So she would keep a roof over our heads, food on the table. And I just knew that the money was better spent for us than me. So that was sophomore year summer. Again, I'm still in the depression. I'm mowing lawns all day and night, going home to Pam. And it just felt surreal. I would put it that way. It felt surreal. I wanted a better life. So did my mom. I knew she did. And so when I was mowing lawns, and I'm a first generation college student, you know, college is a new thing in my family as of me. And I would just be thinking to myself in my head, you know, this is going to look different. I don't know how, but this is going to look different. I'm going to do whatever it takes to make this look different. So I said a pledge to myself, you know, when I'm back in school, junior year of high school, I'm going to get good grades. I'm going to do this and do that. Before that was never a big priority for me. I think the biggest priority was staying positive when I could, given that the mental health reasons were pretty stressful at the time. So junior year of high school, I got good grades, did this, did that. I started working at a restaurant during school in between the summer. I worked a couple days during the school week, but that summer and during breaks, I worked probably between 50, 60 hours a week.
Oh my God. That's more than a professional person. Like that's more than a full-time employee. You're working crazy hours. It's high school summer.
And it wasn't a bad gig though, I'll say that. I was a 15-year-old boy at the time. So I host tables, I bus tables, and I bar backed. So the hosting part was pretty cool. I was a 16-year-old boy or whatever it was, working with some college girls. So that was a pretty cool gig. So, you know, I was a youngster there, and they knew that. And I think they respected me for working a lot as a young man. And going back to the point of I want a better life for myself, I started saving for college, knowing that I'm going to go there one day. I don't know where, but I'm going to go there. And so I started saving up for college, still helping out at home financially. And I saved a couple thousand and said, I'm going to apply to college and this is going to be different. And so I did, got into college, went to a great school. So see, again, that was pretty consistent for the rest of my high school career. Pam left sometime junior year. I couldn't give you an exact date, but it was so low that any change was going to be substantial for the better. And going from living with Pam to not felt like a much different life in and of itself, even though from a bird's eye view, our life still wasn't great. I think seeing that progression helped with the depression quite a bit, even though it took a long time to get there.
Out of curiosity, the depression you're describing, was it something that would you say you were aware of at that point in time, or something that you're only aware of in retrospect?
I would say I was aware of it at the time. I don't know if I knew what to call it, but I knew how I was feeling. And I think it was a couple of things. Number one, and I hate this mentality, but I'd be lying to say I wasn't thinking this way. Number one was kind of a why me sentiment. Why my mom? why is this happening? Not just Pam, but everything. Losing my dad, we lived, technically below the poverty line for about 14 years. So seeing all that, I just wanted a better life, not just for myself, but for my mom too. And that really upset me that I couldn't give her that at the time. Did what I could, but I just wanted immediate change and I couldn't get it. So again, would I call it depression at the time? No, I wouldn't know what to call it. I didn't know how I was feeling. So once I kind of progressed out of that senior year of high school, I went to a public speaker who I knew roughly, and said, I really want to learn. And I wanted to help others who were in a similar situation to mine mentally, feeling like you don't really have anywhere to go. Life can't get any worse, this or that. So I told him, what was going on in my life, and he listened for a bit and didn't give me much advice and stopped replying to my emails. And that really hurt as a young man who wanted to just find out that I wanted to do that for a living. I was pretty confident in that at the time. All of a sudden to just be left on red on emails, and that really hurts. I was doing it in the side. I didn't tell my mom about that. I would just do it after school, go meet up with them for once or twice. Until, again, I wasn't paying him. I cannot fault him for that. He was just doing that out of charity at the time. But it definitely hurts to think of somebody so highly and respect them for what they do, and say that I want to learn from you and I want to help people who are in my spot and show them that life can get better, I promise you, to not even an answer. That hurt pretty bad.
Yeah.
So went to college in Ohio, had a great time. I loved college so much. Went as a pre-med student, self-proclaimed, and that was not for me. I didn't know what was for me. The whole college notion was new to me. But my family definitely wanted me to make a lot of money because I'm a first-generation kid. All the debt is mine. And my biggest goal out of anything was to send money home. So I kept taking some chemistry, biology classes. By classes, I mean singular, not plural. I took the intro to both of them and said that's enough. So I don't know what I'm doing saying classes there. Either way. Happened upon a political science course. I liked it. Didn't immediately jump ship. But stuck with it. That summer, I still worked at the restaurants. Same hours, saving up. I put myself through college with that money. I didn't want anybody. I was always really against the notion of anybody giving me money. I did not like that. So I never asked for money. So I paid for meals, saved for college on the side, and put myself through tuition. So I switched from med school to law school, which is what I stuck with, thank God. Kept putting myself through college. Loved everybody I met there for the most part. And started doing some internships. Wanted to get really involved and further my career. So I'm here at UW-Madison today. Think that brings me up to speed for the most part.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even throughout college, you're still very busy and you have a ton going on. At that point, do you feel like there's maybe more awareness about how you can take care of yourself, whether that be mentally, physically, from a dietary perspective, than maybe in high school? And I mean, you're probably not working 50, 60 hours a week anymore. Did that come with a greater awareness?
I think, admittedly, I wasn't super focused on my physical health during college. Not that I neglected it, but it wasn't a big fear of mine. I always knew that I wanted to get tested, my blood, to see if I had what my dad had. That was always in my mind, in the back of it. But I wasn't actively thinking about the repercussions of what I'm eating or drinking or what have you. That didn't come until law school. And when I'm first year of law school, I'm thinking to myself, I should probably look into that. And I did, got tested, when I got the results back, I thought about telling my mom. I didn't immediately.
It's a tough call.
Yeah, I didn't want to just stress her out. I want to get some answers first. I actually did tell her because I had to. But calling my friends, who at least some of them I've been close to throughout my life, and saying, I think that when they heard the tone and the first couple words out of my mouth, they knew what it was roughly about. To the extent those who know about my story, and saying, my dad died when he was 37. And most people who are listening to this are at least halfway there to 37. So that's shocking how young that is. And saying that I have that too, or at least a version of that. And they were pretty stunned. I think everybody's busy for the most part, but when you hear some real things like that, you stop.
Yeah.
And so not just saying that to them, I think shocked me too. I was just kind of going through the motions, but really also inspired me to do everything I can to get through this. When I said to the dietitian and the cardiologist, was like, they said, we don't really get many kids your age. I'm the kid to them. I totally get that. And my reply was, I'm just here to live as long as I can. Those are my exact words, and I'll do whatever I can to do it. So they gave me the tools, the knowledge, and the rest is history. I just hit the books, got right to it, and it's been a long journey. I'm getting tested for my annual test pretty soon, probably from the next month. So I'm nervous for that. But no matter what the test is, I'll look back and say, I did all I could. The last thing I want to do right now is live with regret and think, what if? So I'm trying to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah, man. I have so much respect for you for a number of reasons. For your ability to, on top of all the nonsense and bullshit that happens in your life, you're able to say, all right, I don't care. Not that I don't care, but that I'm going to get over this, and I'm going to do to the best of my ability. I'm going to overcome this. I'm going to live my best life. I'm going to be healthy. And especially right now, on top of going to law school, you have to work. A lot of people that are going to law school have the privilege to be able to just go and focus on their academics, but you have so much more to worry about. And I really, really respect you for that. And I also really respect you for your ability to open up and to share this on a camera, on a chat, even just with me, but whoever is willing to watch this YouTube video. I think that's extremely admirable, and I know that your intentions are pure and you want to be able to share this story so that other people can live their best lives and be healthy. So I really, really appreciate you taking the time to share this story.
Absolutely, man. Happy to do it.
Yeah. I have a number of more questions. These should be more light questions, kind of just about your life and your perspectives and what you've learned. So I guess just starting off, if you could go back in time and change something about your lifestyle, maybe in high school, even with everything going on, what would have been the one thing you would have changed?
I love this question, and I have an answer for it. I think that when people are going through a good or bad phase of their life, at least they see it that way, that isn't really what's going on. And the reason being that I've found is that there's always going to be good and bad things going on in your life, positive and negative. There's never a moment in your life that is strictly positive. You have nothing to worry about. And there's never a moment in your life, oppositely, where everything's going wrong and you have nothing going for you. Neither of those things will ever be true, even when it seems like they are. It's just a matter of what you divert your energy to, whether it's the positivity in your life or the negativity. And for so long, I would just be focused on the negatives and think about everything that was going wrong in my life. And I wouldn't counter that with, what about at least the possibility of it getting better? So if I can go back, I'd start doing that earlier on and stop feeling sorry for myself sometimes when I was 13, 14. I think it's fine to be sad for a bit. That's totally normal. But there should be an end to that. And even though it's really hard to, and I totally understand that sometimes it just feels like everything's crashing down on you and there's no hope and whatnot. I can promise you there is. You just have to focus your energy in the positives. And even if there aren't physical positives to point to, there's at least the possibility of them.
Mhm.
So if I could go back in time, that's what I would do differently, for sure.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. And what would be my next question would be, what have been the most useful resources for you, if you can name one or two, along your journey to flourish and become a better person?
I think the best resource for me isn't a physical one. Yeah, I think this brings me back to my earlier point of even if my dad was 35 at the time and heard about what was inside him, do I think he would have flipped his life? Yes. He didn't have much to flip. He was already healthy as was. He didn't smoke. He didn't eat poorly, at least as all I'm told. And I choose to believe that. And I've seen pictures of him too. He looks healthy. And so that scares me, to the fact that it's not like he was very unhealthy, smoking, doing this, doing that. He lives a normal life and still killed him at 37. And so seeing his gravestone, the years is just shocking to comprehend that, how quick that is of a life. And so I think that the biggest resource for me is the privilege I have of catching this somewhat early on to push myself. And I think reminding yourself of your progress to make and that you have made is really powerful. And so you just got to be your biggest advocate. Try and remind myself that, try and stay positive. I think that's the best thing anybody can do for themselves. Just stay positive, at least try to.
I love that, man. You have the power within you to make the change you want to be. I think having yourself as your own resource is probably the best answer I could think of for that question. And I guess a Thanksgiving appropriate question. Who is someone that you're thankful for along this journey that you've been through?
Too many names come to mind. This brings up a point I wanted to make, though. I'll answer your question, I promise you. But this is a point I wanted to make that I was really thinking about for the past week. We live in a day and age where it's so easy to talk to anybody over your phone or just text them, even if you haven't talked to them in years. The irony to that is that people don't, and they don't say, thinking about you right now, hope you're well, let's catch up soon. You don't see that ever, at least I don't. And still there's some people I could think of and name that I should probably text and say, thanks for being close to my life. And I think reminding others that is a great thing to do. Just talking to your friends, keeping in touch. I do a horrible job at that, but that's something I'm going to work on. Somebody I'm thankful for, though, is got to be my mom, first of all. Not even a doubt, all the sacrifice she's made. I was talking to her early on in college. I don't know, freshman, sophomore year, and saying, where do you see yourself in about 10 years? And she said, probably somewhere like where I'm at now. And I didn't say anything, but I knew in that moment that that's not going to happen. And I'm going to do everything I can to make sure it does not happen. That's my biggest goal in life, I'd say, is to retire my mom at an earlier age. And I'm making good progress at that, but remind myself of that goal has definitely pushed me. So I'd say her for her endless support, endless sacrifice. There's a lot of details I left out. I'll give you one, which is when she would sell jewelry to, put gifts under the tree. And that, when I heard that, man, that just really hit me hard. All that sacrifice to try and give me a somewhat normal, or at least normal as can be, childhood when everything was going wrong and to still be mom. Yeah, that just hits me like a truck. I don't know. But so I'd say her for sure, but the list goes on. And after this, I'm gonna make an effort to text people who I'm thankful for. Tell them.
That's awesome, dude. I'll do the same. Since you've started paying more attention to your health from a dietary perspective, what's something that you've always had in your fridge? One staple.
One staple. This is an easy staple, but the staple is gonna be Frank's Red Hot. Let me tell you why. I think that another reason people don't eat healthy is the fear of it not tasting good. And I was never good at cooking ever. I didn't cook before law school. Didn't really know how to. I taught myself and got better, got a lot better. So I think I used Frank's Red Hot to make it taste a little bit better. And, still do, just because it's good. But that'd be my staple.
Okay, nice. And are there any social media accounts that you would recommend to people that have been of help to you in like gaining knowledge, or accounts that you feel are reliable sources of information for people?
There's this one Instagram account, Flourishology. You've probably heard of it. Quick plug. I'll be honest. I don't really go to social media for health-related knowledge. There's definitely a lot out there. I just lack the knowledge to know what's out there. But I think on that note, though, to make this a positive answer, I think that there is so much knowledge out there about anything. But for health, for example, it isn't hard to go online and find out how you can improve your health or your life or anything that you want to change. It isn't hard to do. It's just totally on you to do it. That's how anything goes in today's world. The knowledge is right there at your fingertips. It's just on you whether you want to make an actual change, and you're the only one who can hold yourself accountable for doing it. So I try and remind myself that.
Absolutely. Nice. And last question. If you had to share one piece of wisdom you've acquired along your journey that has helped you become you and flourish despite all the challenges you faced, what would it be?
I read this question in our interview guide, and I thought of an answer. I tried to think of one. This is a great question, though. I think what I would say to this is baby steps is the 2-word answer. But what I mean by that is I think people, when they want to change something, think it's going to change overnight completely. As in they work out once and all of a sudden everything's different. It's going to take a while. I put my body through some pretty intense change, and it still took me quite a bit to see that difference. I'm noticeably different now, but it takes a long time. It doesn't just go for health, it goes for anything. But incorporating small things into your life and staying consistent and building that up, as opposed to trying to do a 180 and potentially going back, is a much healthier and better way to do it. So, for example, what I'm doing right now is cold showers after I work out.
Love that.
And yeah, so I'm trying to incorporate that into my life, but I'm not like giving up hot showers all of a sudden. I'm just slowly doing it after I work out, and I'll build my way up from there. So that's my example of that.
And thank you so much for being my first podcast guest. I think it means a lot for me to have you be the person that's on here. You're someone that I know personally, someone that I already have a lot of respect for, someone that I've only had positive experiences with, and someone that I'm comfortable with. So I really appreciate you being the first person that's there for me to do this. So thank you for that.
Absolutely, man. I was thrilled to do this. It's been months in the making. I've been really excited for it. I think it went great. And I'm excited to see what's to come in this channel.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Alrighty, sir. Stay flourishing.
Hey, you too. Till next time.